Out a very special, important quality, if you like, or concept, which is the concept of leadership. Nowadays, there are a lot of talks about leadership and how you can attain leadership. You take seminars and courses and read books about leadership. Let us, inshallah, examine today the concept of leadership in Islam. And the word for leadership is imama or imam. A leader, a true leader, is an imam. All right? So imam is not limited just to the person who leads the prayer. As we know, you could be imam in knowledge, like we have the four imams, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, Ahmad, and so on, and many other imams throughout the history of Islam. We also have the imam, meaning the khalifa, the one who leads and rules and governs. He's also called imam. And you have the local imam. They are local leaders. But the problem is today, the word imam is used very loosely and freely without even knowing what it means. So inshallah, today we can shed some light from the Quran, from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, on perhaps what it could mean and what we can do about it. How can we accomplish at least some of that leadership? Because we all need it. Let us look at the ayah first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that there is something going on before you even become an imam, something really important, very crucial. And that is what we call ibtila. There is a test, there's an exam, right? And the exam or the test does not have to be an affliction per se. Some people think test means trouble, hardship, difficulties. No doubt that is part of it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and remember when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Ibrahim rather, was tested by his Lord. So Ibrahim was tested by his Lord through what? What was the test? Well, he tells us they're words. How can you be tested by words? And what happened, Ibrahim, it says, he completed, he fully completed every test. He perfected the score on those tests. So when it comes to kalimat, it means the commands of Allah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to do something and Ibrahim obliged. He fulfilled these commands. And only after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared him an imam. He said, I am making you an imam. So something to keep in mind, imam is a title that you earn from Allah, not from people. He said, Inni ja'iluka, I'm making you an imam right now. So it doesn't matter if people call you an imam or not. I mean, we don't usually refer to Ibrahim alayhi salam as imam. We don't say Imam Ibrahim, but he is the imam. So just because you have a title, imam so and so, does not mean anything. It's how Allah sees you, and how do you qualify to be an imam with this guy, with this with these conditions that we're gonna see. And look at Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim, the one who cared about his progeny, his descendants, a word for every father and mother. Those who do not care about their progeny, they don't care to raise their kids properly, they don't even pay attention. That is the big disqualifier. You cannot be a leader if your kids are running loose, you have no idea what they're doing, you don't talk to them, you don't listen to them. So that's one indication of leadership. The first indication, what about my kids? What about my children? What about my descendants? They're going to inherit my legacy. That's how Ibrahim was. قال ومن ذريتي, what about my descendants? قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, this is great, you're thinking about your progeny, your descendants, but Leadership does not come through inheritance. You cannot inherit leadership. You have to earn it. So yes, many of your progeny will be leaders, and we know from the progeny of Ibrahim alayhi salam, there are many prophets and kings like Dawood and Sulaiman and so on. But it is not by default. It does not automatic. Just because you're the son of Ibrahim, you qualify to be a leader. So those who do not qualify, they oppress in any sort of way, they do not become leaders. They do not become imams. So who is an imam? An imam is someone worthy of following. Simply put, the easiest definition. Anyone who's worthy of following is an imam. All right? If you see someone being followed, obviously in the Quran, it tells us also about evil imams. Like if people are following you and do evil because of you, you're an imam, but in a bad way. But in essence, that's the imam. It is not a title. It is not an appointment like I declare you, I make you the head of the masjid or the school, or you're the chairman. That's a title. Does not make you a leader until you become worthy of being followed. And we'll talk about that. But first, what made Ibrahim qualify? What are those tests? If you examine his entire life was a test. Ibrahim, if you study his life, wallahi, since he was young, like many of you today, when he was a boy, when he was a teenager, he was being tested. All his life, the whole life of Ibrahim salam was a test. Al-Hasan once said, explaining the ayah, he said, ابتلاه بالكوكب والقمر والشمس فرضي عنه فأحسن في ذلك وعرف أن ربه دائم لا يزول. One of the first tests, not the first one maybe, but one of the first tests, when he was still young, it was a theological test. Who is your Lord? Now his people were worshiping the planets, the stars, and so on, the sun, the moon, and he by himself. And that's a really important indication of leadership. That you're not a follower. You don't just follow people because they said something. You have the ability to use your intellect. You think for yourself. That's what it is. Ibrahim alayhi salam was thinking for himself from day one. He didn't say, oh, my tribe think this way, or they believe in that way, so I'll just follow, being intellectually lazy. No, he said, it does not make sense. How can I worship a planet, a star? To me, it does not make sense. That was the first test, and he passed it. He recognized what's behind the planets and stars, the real power behind the stars, the sun, the moon. So Al-Hasan said, فَأَحْسَنَ فِي ذَلِكَ. He recognized his Lord. عَرَفَ أَنَّ رَبَّهُ دَائِمٌ لَا يَزُولُ. He recognized that his Lord is a power that does not fade away, does not go away. Another test, وَابْتَلَاهُ بِالنَّارِ فَصَبَرَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. When his people did not like Ibrahim and the way he was thinking, the way he was rebelling, they decided to burn him in the fire. Did that make Ibrahim alayhi salam back down? That's another sign of leadership. See, a lot of people want to be leaders, they're wannabes, right? But the first difficulty, the first hardship they face, they back down, they quit, they stop. Ibrahim alayhi salam was not a quitter. He did not quit. He didn't say, okay, I'm gonna let go all my beliefs because there's a challenge here, there's a problem. We have a fire here that we have to go through. Ibrahim alayhi salam said, I rely on Allah. I have my dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why we're talking about Islamic leadership. Islamic leadership can be far, far beyond the leadership we talk about. Because you combine it with tawakkul, with reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the right way, you become unstoppable. So that is another sign. He was tested by the fire, and he said, I'll go through it. Allah will help me. Allah will save me. He did everything in his capacity, and then he said, it's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he was tested by migration. He had to leave his people, his whole tribe. He was in Iraq. He had to travel all the way to back then, it wasn't as easy. You don't catch a bus, right? Or take a flight. So he had to leave everything he knew, his tribe, his people, his language, everything. And when he traveled all the way to Palestine, that region. And he said, فخرج من بلاده وقومه مهاجر إلى الله. And he did it for the right intention, the right purpose. He did it for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of some monetary or materialistic gain. وابتلاه الله بالذبح. And later, he was tested by his own son that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to sacrifice his son as a test. And not to mention many other tests that we don't have time to go through. Now, this is important because, again, a lot of people want to be leaders, and that's good. It's a good ambition. Some people pretend to be leaders or call themselves leaders, Imam so and so. But that is what we mentioned today on this particular ayah. It's a really important condition for being a true leader, and that is being tested first. Imam Shafi'i was asked once. Imam Shafi'i used to have this insight in the Quran. Maybe he looked at this ayah, we don't know, or he took it from other places, but he was asked once, أيهما أفضل البلاء أم التمكين? Which is better? And whoever asked the question, I gotta say, he was very smart. He said, part of intelligence is asking the right question. If you use ChatGPT or anything like that, you know what I'm saying. He said, أيهما أفضل البلاء أم التمكين? Which is better, to be tested or to be well established, to have the power and to rule and govern? Now you might ask, why is that a comparison even? The comparison is because in both cases, there's an immense reward from Allah. If you're tested and you're patient, that is very great. We have examples like Ayub, Job, alayhi salam, who've been tested all his life. That's a great model, a great example. We have other prophets like Prophet Dawood and Sulaiman who ruled. They were very powerful. So that's why there's a question here. Which one is more rewarding? Which one is better in the eyes of Allah? Both seem to be very good. So Imam Shafi'i flipped it around, turned it around. He said it's not a question of either or. Rather, he said, لا يمكن حتى يبتلى. You're not going to be able to establish any place of true leadership and power and strength. And we're not talking about tyrants here and dictators. We're talking about really good leaders. You're not going to be in that level of good leadership, of good governing and ruling until you are tested, he said. You see what he did? So basically he's saying it's like cause and effect. It's not either or. Like you cannot be a really good leader until and unless you're tested. And we see that clearly in the ayah. That's how Ibrahim alayhi salam became the Imam that we still follow today. And not only us, many other religions follow Ibrahim. He is the leader, he is the role model for many people. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what it takes to be a leader. In a different ayah, he told us, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. We made of them imams, leaders, not just one, several, many. يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ. He told us how. He told us the conditions to become a true leader. He said, they were leaders guiding by our, guidance, example. when they did two things, when they were patient and they had certainty in our verses or our signs. So you need certainty too. You need confidence. You can't be wavering all the time if you're a good leader. So the question is though, how is leadership attained to begin with? Like even before we get to that level of being tested and everything. For example, is leadership by nature or nurture? It's a good question. Are people born leaders? Are they found or are they made? Are they born leaders or we can cultivate leadership? Because that's important. If you're born a leader, then attending all these seminars may not be helpful. And the answer is kind of in between. Let me tell you something. Don't you notice if you examine like your kids or someone else's kids, right? Don't you see that among them there are leaders? You can tell right away. You see a girl, she's maybe 7 years old, taking care of her sister, who's 5. No one asked her to. She's protecting her, telling her what to do and stuff like that, right? She feels the responsibility and she's only 7. You meet people who are 50 and 60 and have no sense of responsibilities. That girl has more leadership than that 50-year-old. That is leadership. Who taught her? No one. She hadn't had a chance to be taught. SubhanAllah, some people, it's instilled in them those really nice qualities of leadership. And that's a really good example. Someone who feels the responsibility before you tell them so. Before you remind them you are a father, you are a mother, they know it. They know it since they were kids. They see a gap, they see a problem, they go and solve it. They don't wait for somebody to validate or ask or give them permission. That is a sign of leadership. So some of it is definitely a talent, something you're born with. But it does not mean that you don't grow it, nurture it, cultivate it. We all need leadership. And that leads me to another important question. Is leadership for everyone? Well, it depends what we mean by leadership. There's some leadership that is required on each and every one of us. And then there's some kind of leadership that I think should be reserved to the few. So where is the leadership that everybody needs? If you read in the Quran, at the end of Surah Al-Furqan, it gives you a clue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and that's a beautiful dua all of us should make. In that dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ, these are from Ibad al-Rahman, who should be leaders. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ and what? وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. So those people, again, everybody should be making this dua. Oh Allah, grant us, gift us, hiba, hab, from our spouses and our children, like really good ones. You could say jewels, but I don't like that translation. Qurrat ayn is something you want to stare at and not move your head away. So you're producing a human being that is so like compelling. You look at them and you say, SubhanAllah, MashaAllah, I'm so lucky. I want to stare at you day and night. That's how I'm happy, how happy I am with you. That is Qurrat ayn. These are the kind of kids we should be aiming for. And we should be like hoping to have. Children that you look at and you say, SubhanAllah, MashaAllah, I'm so lucky, he's so gifted, and he's so responsible, and all of that stuff. And you do not want to look away. And I know in some cases, it might happen. You see your kids and you say, yeah, I don't know. You really want to look away, right? So I think it's very clear from this ayah. It's a really important metric to measure how successful you were in raising your kids. But then what do you say? وَجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, and make me a leader of the pious. This is not a selective leadership. Everybody should be aiming, should be hoping to be that person. And this is why the Prophet told us in the hadith, كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Everybody, no exception. And each and every one of you is a ra. And some people translate ra as the shepherd. I don't like that translation. It's okay, you can use it if you like. I'd rather use caretaker from riaya, care. Because riaya is care. Each and every one of us is a caretaker. That's a really important aspect of leadership. To care for something and make it good. It could be even, it doesn't even have to be a human being. Anything you care for a garden, you care for a tool, an equipment, anything, you are a leader because you are a ra'i, you're a caretaker. You're not messy, you're sloppy, you leave things around. That's not leadership. You are a ra'i. You care for something. You master it. إن الله يحب أحدكم إذا عمل عملا أن يتقنه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves mastery, that you master something. So he said, this is everyone now. This is not the leader of the community or the leader of the mall. No, this is in your daily life, everybody is a leader. كلكم راع. Everybody cares for something. If you cares for nothing, that's not good. And you can pick what you want to care for. But to say, I have nothing to care for, this is not good. كلكم راع. And the other aspect of this, and everybody is responsible for what they care for. That's the feeling of responsibility. That's part of leadership. And that's each and every one of us. This is like leadership in your daily life. No one is excused. No one is exempt, right? And this includes everything. When I say personal life, I don't mean just your house. When you come to the masjid, you are responsible. You see something on the floor, you pick it up, you put it in the trash. That is ra'i. You're caring for the community center, the masjid, because it's for you, for all of us. It's not just for the chairman or the imam. The masjid belongs to all of us. So that's part of it. You care for your neighborhood, your masjid, your school. You don't trash it. I mean, you're the one who's benefiting from it. Okay, so that is very important because everybody is a leader in that sense, or should be a leader in that sense. Another important aspect that applies to each and every one of us is your ability to use your intellect. Think for yourself. We mentioned that earlier about Ibrahim alayhi salam. Thinking for yourself and not letting someone think on your behalf is an important sign of leadership that applies to everybody. It's narrated that the Prophet said, لا يكن أحدكم إمعا. One of you should not be an imma. What is imma? Imma comes from the word ma, like I'm with someone. So you say, I am with this person. So whatever they say, I follow. I don't use my brain at all. He's doing all the thinking for me. Whatever he decides, I just follow. Now, this could be a gang, it could be a cult, it could even be an Islamic group. You should still use your mind. So what? It doesn't mean if he's a sheikh or a big leader, mashallah. Still use your mind. That's why we have so many problems today, even among Muslim groups. Because we delegated all our thinking to someone else. If they err, no one can say no, or no one can say why. He said, لا يكن أحدكم إما إذا أحسن الناس أحسن وإذا أساء الناس أساء. If people do good, I do good. If people do evil, I do evil. Why? Because you're imma. You're not thinking for yourself. He said, rather, he said, ولكن وطنوا أنفسكم. Anchor yourself. Ground yourself. Have some ground to stand on. Have some foundation. Don't be a blind follower. إذا أحسن الناس أحسن. If people do good, you do good. Yes. And you can find good anywhere you look. The non-Muslims around you, they do a lot of good, follow that. Don't follow the evil they do. ولكن إذا أساءوا أن تجتنب إساءتهم. If they do any evil, you stay away from it. You avoid it. That is also a part of leadership that applies to everybody. No exception. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Let me quickly mention the other type of leadership, which we can call special leadership. These are the leaders we want them to lead us, like the leader of a project, a community, a center, a group of people. Those require a few more qualifications. We mentioned the talent, right? That you're born as a leader, that you care. You don't wait for somebody to come and tell you to do something. That is something you want in a community leader. Someone who is proactive. They take the initiative. They don't wait for the permission. Sometimes it's something new you've never done before, and everybody is scared to do. You're the first one to take the step, you're a leader. And for that type, even the Prophet himself ﷺ, clarified to some companions that you're not fit for that type of leadership, and that's totally fine. You should be okay with it. If you realize you're not for it, like you're not charismatic enough, you're not decisive enough, because you need to make decisions on the spot. You cannot be wavering for hours of days. So it takes a lot of, important qualities. So Abu Dhar narrates, he said, I told the Prophet ﷺ once, أَلَا تَسْتَعْمِلُونِي. Don't you give me a position, like make me a governor or something like that. You know what the Prophet did, ﷺ? Now the Prophet ﷺ was very nice, don't get me wrong, but he does not sugarcoat things. He was also very honest, because honesty is important. If you can come forward a little bit, we have some people waiting outside, if you don't mind. Is there any gap? So, the Prophet ﷺ, first he said, فَضَرَبَ بِيَدِهِ عَلَى مَنْكِبِي. He put his hand on my shoulder, telling him, take it easy, and it's okay, because you don't want to upset him. He's a good friend with him. And then he said, Ya Aba Dhar, innaka da'if. Oh Abu Dhar, you are weak. Now he does not mean physically weak, but leadership requires certain strength. Like I said, charisma, decisiveness. وَإِنَّهَا أَمَانَةٌ, and this is a trust. Any position of leadership is a trust. وَإِنَّهَا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ خِزْيٌ وَنَدَامَةٌ, and you're going to regret it on the day of judgment if you don't do it right. So don't be jumping at it. إِلَّا مَنْ أَخَذَهَا بِحَقَّهَا, unless you take it and you do it right. In a different narration, he said, إِنِّي أَرَاكَ ضَعِيفًا, I see you weak. وَإِنِّي أُحِبُّ لَكَ مَا أُحِبُّ لِنَفْسِي, I love for you what I love for myself. So I'm not saying it out of hate or dislike. I love you, but it's not good for you. He said, لا تأمرن على اثنين. Look how far he went. He said, you cannot be a leader of two people even. Don't lead a team of two people. You're not fit for it. ولا تولين مال يتيم. Don't you ever take care of the money of the orphan. SubhanAllah, I mean, we can spend days here, but look at the Prophet ﷺ realized that leadership is about two things: managing people and managing money. And he summed it up in like two words, talking to Abu Dhar. Whenever you lead an organization, for example, you need to manage people and you need to manage money. If you're not good in managing people or managing money, you're going to fail. And this is exactly why the Prophet told Abu Dhar not to lead, not to be a leader in that sense. And this is why we have to accept this. Don't say, my feelings are hurt. No, either you're fit or you're not fit. If you're not fit and you lead the community, the whole community will be misled and will fail. So I hope I shed some light on the concept of leadership in Islam. And quickly, just to summarize, 3 important qualities to keep in mind to be a true leader in the greater sense. First, you have to have a sense of responsibility. You see a problem in the community, for example. You see a gap. You don't wait. You don't say, how come the chairman is not doing his job? No, you jump on it. You say, I'm going to solve it. Maybe he's too busy. You form a team on your own. You don't wait for somebody to bring you the people, to assign you people. You find a team and you go and solve it. That is true leadership. Second, you own it. Once you have something, you don't like, I see people like, you give them something very small, and every hurdle, every small little problem, they call you. Like, "Akhi, I gave you the, this responsibility, you take care of it. Don't call me every 2 minutes. Be resourceful. Find the solution yourself. That is leadership. So that is the second one. And third one, you take the initiative. Meaning something hard, maybe something risky, maybe something difficult or scary. Everybody is intimidated or fearful from taking the step. You're the first one who takes it. It's dark in front of you, you can't see, but you take the first step. And now everybody can see the step, they step behind you. That is leadership. They followed you, but you made the first leap, the first step. Again, no one has to come and give you a title or a medal or a trophy. In fact, many times we have leaders who die and no one has called them leaders. But guess what? Many people followed them. In reality, they are leaders. According to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are leaders. And other people, they spend all their life being called this and that, the big sheikh, the imam, the so and so, but no following. In a true sense, I'm not talking about blind following, but people who are inspired by you and follow your example. That's what I mean. Look how many people are inspired by the example of Prophet Muhammad, who's the greatest leader. اللهم ربنا لا تدع لنا في هذا اليوم العظيم ذنبا الا غفرته ولا هما الا فرجته ولا دينا الا قضيته ولا مريضا الا شفيته ولا عدوا الا هزمته وقسمته ولا حاجه هي لك رضا ولنا فيها صلاح الا قضيتها لنا ويسرتها لنا يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه واله وسلم واجعلنا منهم. اللهم ربنا ارنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم ربنا علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا يا ربنا علما. نعوذ بالله من حال اهل النار. ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان وايتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. واقم الصلاه.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة.